A fourth leak has been detected in undersea gas pipelines running from Russia to Europe. The new breach is the second one found in Swedish waters, while the other two were in Danish waters. NATO says all information points to a reckless act of sabotage. The Kremlin says the leaks look like acts of, quote, state-sponsored terrorism, even though Russia itself is a prime suspect. Poland and Ukraine have openly blamed Russia. According to US media reports, European security officials had observed Russian Navy vessels not far from the sites of the leaks. But Moscow says there is a much larger NATO presence in that area, and the leaks are in territory that are fully under the control of US intelligence agencies. The UN Security Council will hold a meeting tomorrow to discuss the leak at Russia's request. Nord Stream 1 and 2 run under the Baltic Sea from Russia to Germany. Any investigation will have to wait a week or two. US officials say it's still too dangerous to get close to the explosive gas that's escaping from the broken pipes. Well, this is Rosie Burchett joins us live from Brussels. Rosie, accusations and insinuations flying fast over who could have sabotaged the pipelines. We've heard some hints of who the prime suspects are so far. Where are we on that?
Well, this is certainly a situation which is full of question marks. But one thing which is certain is that this really is a dramatic escalation in the energy crisis that Europe is already embroiled in. Now, as you said, different sides have been trading accusations here. For example, Kyiv has openly pointed the finger at Moscow. Ukraine says this is an act of Russian terror, something the Kremlin denies. The Kremlin has dismissed those accusations as absurd. The European Union, meanwhile, EU officials here in Brussels have treaded a rather cautious path. They have said that this looks to be an act of sabotage, that all information indicates that this was a deliberate act. They have vowed a robust and united response, but they haven't gone so far as to lay the blame at anyone's feet, rather just saying that they will respond somehow, and that somehow is likely to be with some sort of sanctions. But as you said, investigations still underway and in some cases waiting due to the dangers associated with the current situations. Now, Russian media, for example, have picked up on claims that perhaps the US was involved in this. Now, the premise of this is basically that the United States and several European countries have been in the past pretty critical of these Nord Stream pipelines, particularly Nord Stream 2. That was the pipeline which was being built to funnel more gas from Russia into Germany. Certification of that pipeline was frozen when Russia invaded Ukraine on the full scale in February of this year. And certainly while the European Union hasn't ruled anything out, they haven't identified any exact suspects, I think most EU officials would be dismissing those accusations that are being picked up by Russian media. Meanwhile, there are some claims floating about that Ukraine may be behind this. Now, as I said, a situation that is full of question marks. We've heard, at least from Poland's foreign minister, that Russia cannot be excluded here, that this may be some part of some sort of hybrid escalation of warfare in Ukraine, but no fingers firmly pointed from Brussels' perspective. What they have vowed is some sort of retaliation. They say they are determined to make sure that any deliberate attempts to disrupt energy infrastructure are met with a response. And of course, this comes as Europe is really in the midst of a deepening energy crisis.
Rosie, as you mentioned, Nord Stream 2 has never been in active service. Nord Stream 1 has not been functional since the end of August. So any leaks now, no immediate effect on European energy supplies. But this is still casting a shadow over European economies.
Absolutely. These pipelines have been at the centre of geopolitical tensions over the past few months. Now, Russia has certainly been accused of using the pipeline, Nord Stream 1 pipeline, the one that was functional, for blackmailing the European Union. There have been multiple disruptions to gas supplies into Germany from Russia through that Nord Stream 1 pipeline. Moscow largely blamed those on contractual issues, on repairs. But there certainly was a suspicion here in Brussels that this was down to some sort of blackmail or the Russia trying to convince the European Union to drop sanctions. But of course, as you said, what this really does is cast a shadow over the European economies, not least because we saw gas prices rising in response to these leaks, which are detected and are expected to continue for a few days still to come.
Oh, thanks for that, Rosie Burchett, speaking to us there from Brussels.